I'm certainly not a lawyer, so I couldn't tell you what laws have been broken. But obviously they were, because council told them not to they would not have a good standing in court. So.
Thanks. All right, Joe?
There were no laws broken, and as a matter of fact, using that rationale, with all due respect, indicates that the process isn't fully understood. The commissioners have a duty. State law, Subdivision Planning Act makes it very clear that we have a duty to analyze whether or not a subdivision, in this case, is appropriate for an area. The Act also makes it very clear that, in fact, commissioners have the right to say no, and one could argue they have the obligation to say no if it is determined this is going to have adverse effects on any of the criteria that we are charged with analyzing this with. The one thing we cannot do is turn it down just because of impacts on schools. Other than that, we have an obligation to look at it, and if our opinion, it is going to damage water quality, wildlife, any number of things, it is our responsibility to say no. And you can talk about water quality and say, oh, I'm in favor of water quality. Well, who's going to say they're not? But in fact, you look at someone's record, and if they are approving, if a subdivision, they haven't seen a subdivision yet they didn't like, and if you look at that subdivision and you realize that they bought a piece of property with almost 3 miles right next to waterfowl production area, in an area that has groundwater sometimes 3 feet from the surface, and they want to put 300 homes in there. So half of them are dog lovers and half of them are cat lovers. So we have 150 dogs and 150 cats. Some of them don't have any dogs, but some have 2. So you want to talk about heritage, you want to talk about 4th generation. What I stood up for was the heritage of Montana. And in fact, if we're not going to say no every once in a while, we're not doing our job. They were placing at risk hunting, fishing, and water quality. We said no. We should have said no. We should not have settled. We should have gone to court. If at the American Revolution the colonists had consulted with attorneys, they'd have said, King George looks kind of scary. We better settle with him. Fortunately, they didn't say that, and I wasn't about to either. Sorry.